So the rat trap seller was not happy about the bird. He always think ill about the people, that many of them are caught in the trap and many are still circling around the bait and thinking whether to be attracted towards that bait or not. So one dark evening, as he was trudging along the road, he caught sight of a little grey cottage by the roadside and he knocked on the door to ask shelter for the night. Nor was he refused. Instead of the sore faces, here sore faces means unhappy faces, which ordinarily met him, the owner, who was an old man without wife or child, was happy to get someone to talk in his loneliness. So, while selling the rat traps, he reached the evening, and then he was moving very slowly as if he was tired. So, he has to take shelter somewhere. He knocked the door of a person. He was an old man. When he opened the door, instead of unhappy face, he was welcomed by the happy face. Now, that old man was very happy because he was without wife and without child. He was living all alone in the home and there was no one with him to share his happiness. That's why he was very happy because he will be able to talk to the person and remove his loneliness. Immediately, he put the porridge, he means that old man, put the porridge pot on the fire. Now, what is porridge? Porridge is a sweet dish which is made with milk. So, he put the porridge pot on the fire and gave him supper. Supper is the last meal of the day. Then he cut off such a big slice from his tobacco roll that it was enough both for the stranger's pipe and his own. Finally, he got out an old pack of cards and played Majlis with his guest until bedtime. So that old man served porridge to the stranger. Then he served him tobacco, and then both of them played card game. And what was the name of that card game? Majalis. The old man was just as generous with his confidences as with his porridge and tobacco. Now, the old man, as he has quickly served porridge and tobacco to the stranger, in the same way he quickly shared his secrets with the stranger. The guest was informed at once that in his days of prosperity, his host had been a crofter at Ramsaso Ironworks and had worked on the land. Now, crofter is a person who rents a farm. So during his richest time, when he was rich, when he had lot of money, he used to work on the land and he was a crofter. Now that he was no longer able to do day labor, it was his cow which supported him. Now he has a cow which supports him. Yes, that bossy was extraordinary. This bossy word is used for cow. That cow is extraordinary. She could give milk for the creamery every day, and last month he had received all the 30 kronor in payment. Now he disclosed the secret, that old man disclosed the secret to the stranger, that last month he had saved 30 kronors. Kronor is the currency of Sweden. As in India we have rupees, in the same way in Sweden it is kronors. So from his creamery, the cow gives enough amount of milk which he sells it to the factory, and there they turn the milk into cream and cheese. So he had saved 30 kronors last month. The stranger must have seemed incredulous. Now stranger was not believing on his words that he has saved 30 kronors from cow's milk. So stranger must have seemed incredulous, unbelievable, for the old man got up and went to the window, took down a leather pouch which hung on a nail in the very window frame, and picked out three wrinkled 10 kroner bills. These he held up before the eyes of his guest, nodding knowingly, and then stuffed them into the pouch. Now, because when the old man saw that the stranger is not believing on his words, then he stood up. There was a leather pouch near the window, and the pouch was hung on the nail. He took that pouch, opened it, and showed 30 kronors note, 10 kronor. Three notes were there, 10 kronor, 10, 10, and 10. So three notes were there. So he showed those 30 notes to the stranger and then put back those notes in the pouch and hung that pouch near the window on the nail. The next day, both men got up in good season, good mood. The crofter was in a hurry to milk his cow, and the other man probably thought he should not stay in bed when the head of the house had gotten up. They left the house at the same time. So, next morning, both of them left the house. The crofter went to milk his cow, and the other one, stranger, he went on his way. The crofter locked the door and put the key in his pocket. The man with the rat traps said goodbye and thanks. Why he said thanks? Because crofter has shown hospitality to him, good hospitality. And thereupon each went his own way. But half an hour later, the rat trap peddler stood again before the door. Now that stranger, rat trap seller, he came back in front of his door. He did not try to get in, however. He only went up to the window, smashed the pane. He had broken the window pane, stuck in his hand, entered his hand, and got hold of the pouch with the 30 kroner. Now that pouch with 30 kroner notes, that pouch was a bait for the peddler, bait attraction, because he was a thief. So it was an attraction for the peddler. So that's why he had returned to steal that pouch. He took the money and thrust it into his own pocket. Thrust it means put it into his own pocket hurriedly. Then he hung the leather pouch very carefully back in its place and went away. As he walked along with the money in his pocket, he felt quite pleased with his smartness. He was very happy that I have shown smartness, how smartly I have stolen the money. He realized, of course, that at first he dared not continue on the public highway, but must turn off the road into the woods. Now, because he had stolen the money, he thought, I will not move on to the highway, public highway, because I may be caught. So that's why he thought that I will take the turn and take some other path. So during the first hours, this caused him no difficulty. Later in the day, it became worse, for it was a big and confusing forest which he had gotten into. So instead of taking the right path, public highway, he had taken the wrong path, that is moving through the forest. And in the beginning, there was no difficulty, but later on, he was stuck in the forest. Where is the line? So later in the day it became worse, for it was a big and confusing forest which he had gotten into. He tried to be sure to walk in a definite direction, but the paths twisted back and forth so strangely. He walked and walked without coming to the end of the wood. Wood means forest. Without coming to the end of the wood, and finally he realized that he had only been walking around in the same part of the forest. So he was stuck in the forest because again and again he was moving on the same path in the forest, and he couldn't find the way out of the forest, how to come out of the forest. He was totally lost in the forest. All at once he remembered his thoughts about the word and the rat trap. Now his own turn had come. At that time, he realized that earlier he was making fun of other people, that they are caught in the rat trap, many are caught in the rat trap, and many are still encircling around it. But now his own turn has come. So this forest is a rat trap for him, and he is caught in the rat trap. So now his own turn had come. He had let himself be fooled by a bait and had been caught. So what was his attraction? That just because of 30 crore notes, he's caught in the forest. The whole forest with its trunks and branches, its thickets and fallen logs, closed in thickets, bushes which are closely grown, its thickets and fallen logs closed in upon him like an impenetrable prison from which he can never escape. So, all the forest with trunks, branches, logs, and thickets, they were like a prison for him, and that prison from which one cannot come out. Coming to the next. It was late in December. Darkness was already descending over the forest. It was getting dark. This increased the danger and increased also his gloom. He was gloom and despair. He was very sad. Finally, he saw no way out and he sank down on the ground, tired to death. He fell on the ground, totally tired as if he is dying, thinking that his last moment had come. But just as he laid his head on the ground, his ears touched the ground, he heard a sound, a hard, regular thumping, as if somebody is hammering. Sound of hammer was heard. There was no doubt as to what that was. He raised himself because as he heard the sound of hammering, he thought that he might get a shelter somewhere. So he raised himself. Those are the hammer strokes from an iron mill, he thought. There must be people nearby. He summoned all his strength, he gathered all his strength, got up and staggered in the direction of the sound. Staggered means started walking with unstable steps. Wouldn't walk easily in the direction of the sound. Now next we will do in the next